With every breath I take all of my days, I will glorify your name.
Parents, welcome to another episode of The Journey, a podcast intended to educate, equip, and entertain you as we talk about important issues facing our families. PCA is a Christ-centered, biblically based, and family-focused community of committed believers doing life together. We hope the information you hear on this podcast informs and inspires you to be a better parent. Welcome to The Journey.
All right, parents, welcome back to The Journey. This is Dan Panetti, and I've got our FPS team, right, adults-wise. We're going to talk to some students as well, but I wanted to talk to you guys first about what Future Problem Solvers is and what parents need to know. So, Shannon, we're actually going to start with you since this is a program you brought here 25 years ago. Yes. So right out of high school, you started the FPS program.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Well, just tell me, what is it first, right? And then we'll get into the why. So what's FPS?
Future Problem Solving started in 1974 by Dr. Torrance out of the University of Georgia because he felt like students were losing their ability to think.
Oh, amen.
So what he wanted to do was develop a program that used the system of thought that would test the kids under pressure and in certain situations so that you could develop a group of thinkers that could become the future as far as innovators. So you could have another industrial revolution, people that would create ideas. And because he felt like education was becoming rote and more memory-based instead of thought. So he was wanting to teach kids to be better critical thinkers, creative problem solvers.
So good. Now, you also teach English.
Yes.
So this is kind of like a little side thing.
Well, yes, it is.
A
little side thing. When I started here, I did it in the English program.
Okay.
In fact, Jillian did FPS in Honors English.
It's been around that long.
Okay.
Sorry. We'll get to Jillian in a second. But so you did it as part of the English department?
Correct.
Okay.
It's interdisciplinary as far as content, but the reading and writing and communication skills are all language arts, and speech and debate. It's what I love about future problem solving. It brings all the subjects together so that everything they're learning at other places helps the FPS team.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help them with their writing skills, and then the other subjects can help them with their science and other content areas that will help bridge the information when
That's
they
so
compete
good.
in the setting. Yes.
Yes. Now, Trudy, you work with our middle school students in doing this as well. So at what age do we start doing this?
We start in 6th grade. I'm working on maybe incorporating 5th grade, but because it does go down to 4th grade at the international office. So hopefully that will become a norm, but not right now.
Okay.
But 6th grade to 7th and 8th.
And how long have you been involved with FPS?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I want to say 15 plus.
Okay.
And loved every minute of it because it does teach kids how to think, not what to think. And that's one of Dr. Torrance's
Yeah, so hang on to that comment that I've loved every minute of it, because I'm going to come back to that. Jillian,
yes,
you were in FPS as an alumni.
I was.
Right? Do you remember the components of FPS? Like, what are the things that students are actually doing?
Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday because we were drilled on it pretty good by Miss Lichty. But I started in 8th grade when I came to PCA, and then I participated all 4 years of high school as well. And so essentially what you do is you're able to think within a small group, right? You come together, you think during these competitions, and you're presented a future problem or a future scenario, and then you have to come up with what are the problems. You have to pick what's probably the biggest impactful problem, and then you have to come up with ways to fix that problem, and you have to communicate it effectively. And so working with the team is always a hard dynamic for, especially middle school. I think they're just trying to figure that aspect out. But we got a really good team together. I was kind of on 2 teams throughout my time, and we figured out a system. We had it down to an art at some point. And so it was really just one of my very favorite things that I participated in at PCA.
Yeah. Now, Chris Compton's not here, but what is the role that she plays? Because it's a lot of when we think about future problem solving and the writing component, there's an actual presentation component as well to it. So it kind of fits into our speech aspects. What does she do with the
Chris
team?
Compton does the scenario performance.
Okay.
So kids will write a scenario, and then they have to do a storytelling competition, which was actually started by Australia not that long ago, maybe 10 plus years ago, and they brought it to the forefront. And so it takes the scenario writing competition and puts the scenario writing competition in a performance-based competition.
So neat, yes.
And what I love about it is it's truly a team of people that makes it work. High school isn't successful without middle school, and the kids in FPS have been here since the beginning. Actually, are some of the strongest competitors, unless you have some really driven kids that come in high school and do it, which we do. 2 of our state champion kids came in 9th grade, and that can happen. But man, if they can have that base cleared down in the middle school, it makes a huge difference. And so when you get people like Chris Compton in the mix, then she can take the performance side of it, and then that we have other people that help with scenario writing through the years, different people, because that fits right into language arts. And they write a story in the future if you're doing a short story unit. And then this year, Texas started the art competition. And it's called Artistic Expression. And so they're taking one of the international topics that the kids do in competition or scenario writing or performance, and they create an art piece exhibiting a challenge or solution to a topic. And it was the first year this year. There's 3 states that have started it. It's not international yet. But we had our art teachers now are coaching that. So we're really excited about bringing in more people into the dynamics, because not everybody's ready to do a team competition, but there are some that are willing, that are very artistic and could bring their artistic expression that way. However, several of them are on team too, so we have a lot of them that repeat it.
That's cool. Trudy, what would you say from a parent's perspective when I have a student coming in? Is this for kind of academically strong students? Is it for an average student? I mean, like who would be somebody that you encourage to do FPS?
I would encourage anyone to try it.
Okay.
Because sometimes those kids that aren't academically showing their efforts just thrive in this situation. It just depends. They do have to be willing to work a little bit and to make sure that they complete things so that they can be ready for a competition. But otherwise, I'm willing for anybody to be in it, to try it out.
Now, it is extra time outside of school, right? So, Jillian, you've gone on some of the competitions, right? What are those like as a student to go on, right, with your teams?
Yeah, so when I was here, we would have our competitions on campus, and so it would be part of a morning, one morning, and we would practice, or we would go to like FPS would be a class we would go to essentially during like an activity period or before or after school, and so we had to put a little bit of time in that way. But the competitions honestly were a blast. They're a few hours, and you got to be with your team and kind of put pedal to the metal, and you've been working on all these, how to create future scenarios and how to like solve these problems. And so to get a new future scene and put it all together was actually a blast for us.
Yeah. Well, now you take students off campus for state and international competitions.
Yep,
Shannon,
those
tell me
are
a little bit about that, because we're going to talk to some students, right, who are who have won state and are going to internationals, right? So I mean, that's a pretty neat thing. So what does that look like?
Well, when we go to Waco or San Antonio or San Marcos in Austin, have been different places where we've had it.
I think it was Austin when I was there a few times.
Yes. We used to have to travel 4 or 5 hours to get there. So now it's in Waco, and we've really enjoyed that. But the kids it's kind of like the kids are competing in divisions all year long. It's kind of like you're in your little athletic division, and you win your division, and you get invited to state.
Okay.
And if there are teams that are close in points, they will also get an invite, and then they compete against the best at the state level, and they'll go down to Waco and compete in a writing competition or scenario performance and everything. But what's cool about the team competition is when they finish their writing competition, they're not done, because now they have to do a 4-minute presentation of action plan, which is they have to create a commercial selling their best idea, and they get to have some fun with it. And they've got so many materials that they can use for props and skits, so they get graded on creativity and communication, because at internationals, they have to do it. Every team has to do it. At state, it's optional. However, I don't make it an option because if they go to internationals and they've got that under their belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of have a passion for that because when I first started doing this in Oregon, I did it in the Gifted and Talented program, which really this is a GT program. But when I brought it here to PCA, we didn't have a GT program, so I did it with the honors classes. And they'll really thrive in it. Sometimes the smartest kids struggle with it because there's not a right answer. There's a better answer. And they want to have the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
So at first, they are confronted with some challenges. They're like going, this doesn't feel good. What do you mean there's not a right answer? I said, well, you have to problem solve for a better answer, and you have to compete with your teammates. And sometimes they don't get along on a decision.
Yep.
So they're really having to learn to cooperate and how they can come to a decision without, when you say discouraging them,
Right.
so that their friends don't stop thinking.
Yeah.
And so learning how to do that so your teammates don't shut down and so you can finish your packet in 2 hours.
Yep.
So group like conflict and negotiation
Yes.
and all the different
Huge
things.
part of it.
Can I say, I'm thinking middle school. What does that look like? Is it seems to me like it could be just chaos, but it works.
You know what? It does work. You know, there have been situations where we've had some issues, and I just try
With
to
the
go
police
over.
being called? No, I'm just
Not
kidding. Okay.
not yet. I go over and try to deflect the issue. You know, hey guys, we're here to work together, be a team. You
Learn
gotta-
how to work in a group with conflict. Super
Exactly.
important, valuable
Exactly.
skill. Yes.
And I keep telling them, even in the middle school, I keep telling them, you can put this on your resume to go to college. And their eyes get really big, and they think, okay. And so they try a little harder.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they do. And
That's
it's
awesome.
it's so rewarding to see them come through a competition and go, we did it. We did it. We didn't get everything done, but we did it. And I just try to encourage them to
I love it.
continue, keep trying, don't give up.
Yep.
Jillian, I mean, it's hard to boil it down to like one thing, but if you say, what's the one thing you remember from FPS that you took with you that you said that was really valuable, what would you say?
Oh man, I talk about this all the time. I attribute FPS to why I was able to have success in college.
Okay.
It prepared me. It was one of the biggest factors of preparation for college and to succeed in college. So the ability to think on my own or think with a group, land on something, be decisive and pick something, but then articulate it, communicate it effectively. I think that was probably the biggest thing because, you know, in college you're having to do all those skills and then the communication aspect of like, hey, I've thought through this, I've landed on something, and now I'm choosing that, I'm running with it, I'm going to communicate it effectively. Man, that made college not easy because you have to work hard in college, right? But it was something that made college doable and something that really attributed to success there.
I think as a life skill, though, that particular component, a lot of people think that most of the learning happens in the classroom, right? And I go, here's the deal. In college, definitely most of the learning does not happen in the
Absolutely
classroom,
not.
right? It is life, it is situations, it is dealing with people, and so FPS really is more of a kind of a life programmed skill. Now you're still going to learn things, but you're bringing to the table a lot of different skills and abilities and just understanding that you already have, and you've got to digest it, and then you've got to work with people, and you've got to present things. So I think it's a really neat program. The one thing you said before, the critical thinking component, especially as we get into AI, right? And information is something that everybody has access to, right? There's not a difference anymore. I have more information than you do because we can both go to AI, and now there's all the information in the world. Now it's going to be, well, what do you do with the information? And the critical thinking component is going to be even more valuable than before. So I think FPS is going to get even more valuable as a program in the years to come.
Absolutely.
So now, Trudy, I want to go back to the statement you said, right? You loved every minute of it, right? I'm sure I know what you meant. Have there been any difficulties? Can you remember something in terms of taking the students off campus and going to, New Braunfels, and right? Can you remember anything that you just kind of reflect back and go, you know what, that was a rough time, or that was a rough situation, or maybe that was a rough student, but we don't want to mention names.
No,
if it's my name, don't say it.
The difficulty that I remember the most was changing from having a class, and then having to go to 7 o'clock hour,
Okay.
having kids come in regularly, that has been the most difficult part for me.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's always difficulties, with kids and whatever, but being a teacher, that's part of life.
So worth it.
And you just gotta help them through it.
Yep.
And that's a teacher's goal, like you said.
Yeah. Well, Shannon, what do you see in terms of the future of FPS, right? Like the program, like how well is it going? Are there things that parents need to know for them to take advantage of this as their students are getting to these particular ages? Like what's the last word that you'd want to give to parents about FPS?
I think the biggest driving force for me is what the kids are coming back from college and careers telling me.
Yep.
Because when I first started, I started in middle school, and you don't get to see the fruits of your labor. I took a team to internationals in Oregon, and that's where I got really excited about it. But it wasn't until I came here and I started getting the kids graduating, coming back. They'd get into college over somebody else because of FPS. They'd get an invite to a university like Brown or whatever, just because of an interview, and they're talking about FPS, and they said, well, what do you do in FPS? And my own son went through a mock interview, well, it wasn't really a mock interview, but a senior year at UNT, and you know how mom doesn't know anything until he's in an interview, and this accounting firm asks him, what have you ever done on a team besides athletics?
Oh, wow.
And he goes, oh,
FPS.
wow, I did FPS for 7 years. Well, what do you do in FPS? We work in a team, and then you start explaining what they do, and the kids start realizing, oh, what we do is really valuable out there in the real world of work. Or I think of like a Jackson Kinnear, when he was out at USC in the business program there, and he sends me his first homework assignment, and he goes, okay, Miss Lichty, I'm doing FPS. I'm the only one who knows how to do it because I've got experience.
Yes.
And their whole school, business school, has to go what's called through the USC Marshall Plan. It's FPS. And so their case studies they actually have to do in the world of work. And so I'll get the same thing in engineering. I'll get students coming back and say, okay, I'm in engineering, now I actually have to do my step 6. It could just be a forecast of what we do. Or a David Heasley, it's funny, I'm at the Bryce Taylor's wedding down in Houston, and David comes up to me and goes, they stole our idea. I said, who stole your idea? He says, somebody over in Great Britain. Remember when we did the future scene on climate? We had this idea in a step 6. They invented it. They actually did it. They go, we should have marketed our idea.
Right.
So it was like that kind of stuff. When the kids come back and start telling me this is what I'm doing with it, I'm doing FPS. Or like an Emily Rhodes, who, Wong now, she sent me a text just this year. She goes, okay, my job I do FPS every day.
Yeah.
And so that's what keeps me motivated. And so when we go through the challenges of schedule changes, things like that, it keeps us persevering because we know it will benefit the kids in the long run.
Yep.
So hopefully they'll become an employee someday that will look at the challenges and look at them as opportunities, and so they can come up with an underlying problem that they need to solve and come with solutions, so their employer will go, wow, okay, we'll listen to you because you're actually coming to the table with something.
It's ideas. And consistency in the program. Really helps, because if you do it a year and then you're off a couple of years, you have to not really relearn, but you have to refresh your memory, and it just takes you longer to get back in the groove. If you do it every single year, and I try to stress this, but it doesn't always happen because of all the choices that they have, it really is going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, with technology and the way the world is going right now, this particular program and the skills that it develops are the things that most kids are now lacking in.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Right? So
Amen.
girls are on social media, boys are playing video games, and all the different research that's coming out. Like, if I'm as a parent looking, saying, what programs do I want to make sure that my kids do? Great, if they're athletic and they want to do that, awesome. But I would say FPS is one of those programs that you have to at least try to stay in as long as you can, right? And if you can stay in and do this, it'll develop some life skills for you that, as you said, when they're going to college and they're in life, they come back and they go, ooh, that was really, really valuable.
Yep.
So thanks for putting this together.
And what's exciting about it, too, is that the workforce in their studies have said that there's 10 things that they'd like people to come to them workforce with. and FPS teaches 9 out of those 10
That's
things.
awesome.
So that's pretty cool.
It
That's
is
so
cool.
awesome.
It
Well,
is.
thank you for bringing the program to us. Thanks for celebrating 25 years.
I know.
So I don't know if you have another 25 years in you,
Oh,
but
gosh.
She does.
Better. My
does.
kids are coming through this program.
that's
She
right.
does.
When the Bryant boys get up there, you let me know.
Well, it's this
That's right.
that keeps you motivated.
That keeps you
right.
motivated.
That's right.
It really does.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the time today, too.
You're welcome. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
All right, parents, welcome back to the journey. So we've got we're talking FPS. We've got a guys team, which I want to start with this. Are the teams mixed gender, or is it like guys and girls?
Generally speaking, they are mixed gender, but this team has been together since like middle school and even lower school. So, like we've always tried to keep it these 4 people.
Okay. Let's tell parents who you are first, right? So Carter, start us off. Tell us, right, just grade. Tell us when you started coming to PCA and when you started FPS.
My name is Carter Oswald. I am a sophomore. I came to Prestonwood when I was in kindergarten, and I started FPS in, I think, 6th grade with these guys. So,
All right.
sir.
Kellen?
Absolutely. I'm Kellen O'Brien. I'm a lifer here at PCA. Been here my whole life. Started, of course, FPS in 6th grade with Miss Ellis.
My name is Blake Dunham, and I've been here since pre-K 4 and at the church since before I could talk and walk. But I actually joined this team a little late in 8th grade, so they had 2 years without me. I was in another team, but I transferred over.
Okay.
First 2 years of
It's
FPS.
been a really cool experience, though, hanging with these guys.
All right. And Caleb?
My name is Caleb Rose. I'm a sophomore. I've been here since pre-K 4 and been on this team since 6th grade as
All
well.
right. All right. So is it, I'll say that, is it typical for teams to kind of stay together once they find kind of a group of guys or group of individuals, because you can have guys and girls, right, that they like to work with?
Yes, sir. Usually, like, people come in and people leave. So, like, I've seen a lot of other teams that break apart and, like, form new teams. But like I said before, we've always tried to stay as this group.
Now, I know this. On the team, right, there's different components that you're given in your scenarios, and usually one person's maybe really good at one thing and another person's really good at something else, right? Because if all 4 of you were good at just one component, there's a lot of different elements to it. So let me ask you this. What do you think it is that you bring to the team? Like, what's the one thing that you go, hey, if I weren't here, this team would not survive because this is what I bring?
I'd say I have a lot of creative ideas
Okay.
and creativity with thinking of new.
You're the outside the box guy.
yeah, futuristic solutions.
Because that's important, because there are future problems that you're trying to solve, and so, right, you're given a scenario, and it's not like I can just go, oh, well, here's the wrench that fits the nut, turn it this way, because it's a future problem, right? So you have to sometimes think of futuristic ideas that maybe even use in things that don't exist yet, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's you. You're the outside the box guy.
Yes, sir.
I like it. Kellen, what do you bring?
For me, it's like the bulk of the writing.
Okay.
Like articulating and putting all the ideas that he has
Yeah.
into words and
So you
sentences.
digest everything, and then you got to put it down on a piece of paper and
Yes,
make it
sir.
make sense, right? So you take crazy over here and make it make sense. I like that. Blake, what do you bring?
I like to look at the future scene. So they give us a future scene, which is a scenario of the topic that we've been given.
Okay.
And I like to kind of look off that because we have a charge, which is kind of the thing we need to base our thesis or our step 2 about, and like the underlying problem that we have. So I like to look at that and kind of tie it all together because we have to tie it to the certain topic that we're given in that scenario. So I like to make sure that we're always going off that scenario and making sure that we're feeding off of that so we don't, go off track.
Yeah, good. Caleb, what do you bring?
I think I bring like structure. Like step 6, there's 4 different components of it, and one of them is justification. So I do that, and it's like looking at different criteria and structuring it. So just trying to keep everyone on task too.
Keep everyone on task.
Yep, that's a big one.
Yeah, I like that. Blake, you also apparently, right, are good in something else, and I don't really understand this, right? But they just said, ask Blake about the other thing that you won in competition, right? So tell me even what that is. So this group was together down at state. You guys took second at state?
Second.
Okay, and then what else did you do then that's different than what we've already been talking about?
So this thing is called scenario performance, and as the name implies, it's a performance. So you create your own kind of scenario or story based off a certain topic that you're given. So you can choose out of 4 topics, and I chose autonomous transportation. So I wrote a story about that, and then I had to perform it and add in certain elements that would make it performable and more interesting.
Okay.
And then sort of tie that together. Like, it doesn't really have to solve or like really focus on that issue, but that issue has to be really ingrained within the story. So I tried to focus on that.
Okay. And so you won that part.
Yes, sir.
And you get to go on. We talk about state and then internationals, right? Are you going on to internationals in that, or is that a part of the international
Yes,
program?
sir.
Okay. And where is that being held this year?
Indiana.
Very good. All right. Now, you mentioned before step 6. How many steps are there in FPS? Like, what you guys know them probably pretty well by now.
There are 6 steps.
Okay.
First step is to identify all the problems within the future scene that you're given.
Right.
Step 2 is find like the main problem or the underlining problem, like the UP we call it. Step 3 is to find like all the different solutions, like on various topics, whether that be like environment solutions, like transportation solutions, education solutions, like whatever that may be. Step 4 and 5 are targeted on creating criteria and grading the solutions that we have in order to find the best solution, which we talk about in step 6.
Okay. So how many, like when you're getting all your creative juices going, how many problems and then how many solutions are you like normally coming up with? We're not talking about 2 or 3. We're talking about how many?
We do 16. You do 16, find 16 problems from the future scene. And then in the third step, you take the problem that you think is that has the biggest problem, and you make 16 solutions off of it. So each of us will normally do 4 solutions and 4 problems.
What was your like scenario or prompt this year for state?
Autonomous transportation.
Autonomous transportation.
So like, same as HIT.
Okay. So do you guys remember what your main problem was that you guys worked off of? Going back?
I think I do remember. It was the problem that we said was that the switch between regular like vehicles to autonomous transportation, which are like electric vehicles, is too difficult for like the normal citizen to have. And it's like the government has these people stuck in a box because they don't have enough money to switch, and they're creating tariffs and taxes upon like these diesel cars in order to encourage people to switch. So they're stuck in a box and unable to get out. So we're trying to focus our solutions. We're trying to focus on relieving the stress of switching from like regular cars to autonomous transportation.
Very good. Okay, so Caleb, I'm going to ask you, what's the greatest benefit that you think you've gotten out of doing FPS?
I think like team building, like working as a team, like is very important and will continue to be very important, like for jobs later on, school, life, yeah, and just getting to know these guys better too. It's been great. Yeah,
very good. Carter, what do you think is the most difficult aspect of working together in a team? Because I know individually you could probably win this thing on your own, but how do you drag these other 3 guys along with you?
It's hard because you gotta work together a lot, and sometimes you might think of it's the same solution that other guys do, and you have to kind of work around that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of problems that come up when we do the 6-step process, but you got to work together and get through it.
Yeah. So, Kellen, if you were talking to a parent, right, they've got a 2nd grader, right, and they're thinking, hey, in a couple of years, I want you to try FPS, okay, and that son or daughter is just like, no, I don't want to do it. It sounds boring. What's that parent going to say to that student in a couple of years to help them say, I want to try FPS?
I think it specifically applies to me because that was me.
Okay.
I did not want to do FPS. Thankfully, I had a mom that was loving enough and kind enough to realize the importance of it.
Okay.
And its like value, not only within like the future world of like learning these like the 6-step process in order to like give me lessons for the future, but like right now in high school.
Yes.
And like of course what Caleb said, it's team building. Something that specifically helped me was having friends that were in it, like say like, oh, Carter's going to do it, oh, Caleb's going to do it. like I can be with them, I can be on a team with them. That made it a bit easier for me to accept the idea of doing something more, because oftentimes you don't want to do something more, especially when you're a kid. You want to like stay with what you have. You want to like not try something.
Seriously, especially because we're starting at I think 6th grade, but they're looking at even doing it in 5th grade, right? And middle school is like the last thing you want to do is stand out and be different, right? So if your friends are doing it, okay, well I'll try it. Okay, I would say this. It's a kind of interesting thing from a parent perspective. I know that, hey, if my friends are doing it, you should do it. But here's the thing. If the friends that you currently have aren't doing FPS, it's a great way to make new friends, right? So that can be an important thing, because, the friends you have in 5th or 6th grade may not be the friends you have in 10th and 11th grade. And this is a great way to really build community and relationships with other people and maybe new friendships. So if you have a young person who's like coming in and they're new, or they don't have good relationships and friends, it's like FPS is a great way to connect a group of people and do some things with. So, Blake, any last thoughts for parents that you'd want to share about why FPS is valuable?
I would say because it's fun. Like you said, you get to meet new people, and like these guys, I've had so much fun spending time with them at state, because we spend 2 nights at state. If you go to state, you spend 2 nights, and you just get to hang out with these boys. We also get to prepare and focus on something, a common goal, but we also just get to hang out. And even in competition, I know we sang a few songs while working on our packets and steps, but it's just really fun because we get to be creative and get to see how everyone really comes together to make something.
Yeah. What about not just your team, but like all of PCA and just kind of FPS when you're down there, like when you're down at state? You guys were in Waco this year, right? At a hotel, at a school, where were you guys at?
A hotel.
Okay, so that's kind of, I've done FPS before when I've taken the students down. It's tons of fun. But while you're there, what are some other things that are going on that are just kind of interesting and entertaining for you guys as well?
First thing that comes to mind is the FPS mixer.
Meaning that there's a little dance.
Yeah, it's a dance that the FPS people they provide. They allow this to happen. This year was pretty fun.
Okay.
I honestly prefer the Internationals mixer to the one at state, but it's always fun to, especially after a 3-hour to 4-hour competition, to maybe relieve yourself a little bit.
Yeah, kind of let your hair down a little bit. Yes, just have some fun. Are you guys going to Internationals?
Yes. We are.
Okay, so when is that? In the summer is what we're saying?
Yeah.
So in the summer in Indiana?
Yes. Early June.
Early June.
Yeah. June 5th through the 9th.
Okay.
He's got it.
Wow. See? Yes. Caleb, what do you bring? It's I keep all these guys on task, right? Yeah, I love that. Any last thoughts or as far as anything I haven't asked you about what you found fun, exciting, interesting about FPS that you want to share with parents? Are we going to win Internationals?
Oh,
yeah.
We're going.
I like that. I like that.
Yes.
I know.
Yes. Yeah.
The reality check.
Well, listen, guys, you did a great job. I know just talking to, Mrs. Lichty and everybody, they love working with your team. They love the way that you guys work together and, the scenarios and all the different things that you do. But also just, I think you're beginning to see the value of it. And I think it's great for you to be able to pass that on for the next generations of young people coming in, because it really, really is an important program and a valuable aspect of your education here at PCA. So thanks for participating in it, and thanks for sharing it with our other students through the podcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys. All right, parents, we are back talking FPS with our ladies group here. When I talked to the boys, they said not all the groups are gender specific, right? So there's guy groups, girl groups, guys and girls groups, whatever. How long have your group been together?
This is our first year together.
First year together?
Mm-hmm.
We've been with each other, some of us on different teams on the past years. Like I was with Lily last year.
I was with Madeline sophomore year.
And I was with Shirley freshman year.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But this is our first year, all 4 of us together.
All right. Well, let's tell the parents who you are, right? So Lily, start with you. Tell us who you are, how long you've been at PCA, how long have you done FPS?
Hi, I'm Lily Alexander. I've been at PCA for the past 7 years, and I've done FPS for the past 4.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Danya Kinley. I've been at PCA for the last 4 years, and I've been in FPS since my sophomore year, so this is my 3rd year.
Awesome.
I'm Shirley. This is my 5th year at PCA, and I've done FPS since freshman year, so 4 years.
Very good.
I'm Madeline. I've been here for 13 years, and I've done FPS for 7 years.
All right. So now here's the deal. The reason we're talking to your group, right, even though you've only been together as the four of you for 1 year, is apparently you guys did really, really well at state. So who wants to tell me what happened?
Well, we won.
We won the whole thing.
At the beginning of the year, we kind of like all agreed that we should be a team, and we're all friends. So then we think we would like work really well together. And then for the first few competitions, we just worked on like kind of like separating which steps should be done by who. And then so at the state qualifier and actually the state tournament, we did really well of like, oh, I should do step 2 and you should do step 3, because we have like spent the whole year trying to work that out and who does the best at what part.
We have our own kind of thing going on, so it's even like unspoken now. Like at the actual state tournament, we just know what steps we're going to do and what parts we're going to maybe work together on.
Okay, so do you know of the 6 steps? Do you know which one? Like if I ask you, Lily, which step do you do? What do you bring to the team? What would you say?
Definitely step 1s are my specialty,
Okay.
and then if needed, I will do step 3s, and sometimes Shirley and I will collaborate on like ideas, but she's mainly step 6. But if she needs help with an idea, I'm always willing to do that.
Okay, so step 1 is like your creative thinker outside the box, throw a
Yes.
bunch of ideas out there.
Yes, sir.
That's what you bring. Danya, what about you?
I do. So we need 16 step 1s and 3s. So I'll do my 4 for the step 1, step 3s, and then I work on step 4. And sometimes I'll help with step 2, but not always.
Okay. Sounds like you're carrying a lot of water there for the team.
I mean, I would say we all do our part. It's pretty equivalent.
I love it. Shirley, what do you bring?
I mainly do step 6,
Which is
5,
long.
and step 2. Sometimes me, Madeline, and Lily would collaborate on step 2s.
Which step is the one that has to write everything down in the little box type thing?
I think that's step 6. That's like
Okay.
our solution.
Okay.
We just got to write a lot, like elaborate on the idea and how it works.
Okay. Madeline?
I do my part of the step 1s and step 3s, so I do 4 of those, and then I'll do the step 2. And then since Shirley is usually busy writing the very long essay, I'll go back and finish any step 1s she didn't do.
Okay.
Madeline's a great step 3 writer. I think almost every time the step 6 that we make is based on a
Her
solution that
step
she
3 idea.
writes. Yeah.
Wow. I love you guys working together. You're all super encouraging. Okay, so let's be honest. Any difficulties as a team? Any kind of little hurdles that you guys had to work through this year?
At first, I feel like we're kind of bad at communicating because you know how there's different categories for step 1 that we do hit. Sometimes we'd write the same thing like 3 times
and we
because
would
we
get
forget to
repeats.
like tell each other, and we would get these like duplicates and take points off. But like we kind of worked that out for the qualifier and state. So
yeah,
I love it. Very good. So, Madeline, you did something related to this with STEM honors, right?
Yes.
Tell me what that was.
So with the STEM Honors program, we went on this field trip to a company called Tenaska.
Okay.
And what we did was they presented us with the case study, the same one they give to all of the people they're interviewing, like for actual jobs. And
you were pretty familiar with it.
I was
you've
very
already done
familiar
it.
with case studies.
Oh, wow.
So my group did pretty well. We had to help them decide if this small company or the small like nation, if their banking should be switched to digital instead of only in person in the middle of some crisis.
Yeah.
And so we had to analyze financially if it was a good decision, and then ultimately we had to decide yes or no, should we make the switch. And it was not the right decision to make, but most teams weren't able to kind of process that you were able to say no. You were allowed to say don't do it. Yeah. But my team was one of the ones who said not to do it, which
So
really
FPS
impressed.
prepared you for that.
Yes, because I was very familiar with case studies
Yeah.
and knowing the different parts of it.
Now, you're all seniors. How do you think FPS has prepared you for the next step in college? And let's tell parents where you're going, right, planning on going, and what you're planning on studying, and then kind of how FPS you think has helped you kind of navigate that. So, Lily, what about you?
Okay, so first off, I'm going to the University of Arkansas, but FPS has really helped me because, one, I'm already a pretty creative person, but being able to channel that in a very useful, practical way was something that I thought could never happen, because most of the time when you think of someone who's a creative person, you think like arts and crafts, you know, but I always thought of myself more like that. But then whenever we got to FPS, I was able to figure out problems, and now every single day, including college, which was a huge thing, I got to say, what are my like pros, what are my cons of this college, what do I want to get out of it. So honestly, using that FPS process through like my college decision really helped me.
That's cool. And what are you planning on studying at Arkansas? I'm
planning to do business and international studies, so I'm going to double major.
Very good. All right. Woo Pig Suey. Danya, what about you? Where are you going, and then how has FPS kind of prepared you?
I'm going to the University of Texas at Austin to study business at Macomb School of Business. And I think FPS has honestly helped me in so many different ways, mainly in critical thinking. And I think it's a kind of a misconception that sometimes people have that like FPS is only good for like STEM majors, and obviously like it's wonderful, like you guys did so great at the field trip, I heard about that, but I think it could help in honestly any major, because at the end of the day you need to critically think in every single field.
Amen.
Yeah. And
it helps to critically think in every single field. You don't have to.
You don't have to, but you should.
But if you don't know how, right? If you've never really had to think kind of outside the box, right? Come up with some different, solutions, balance and weigh, right? What's better than the other? I mean, that's things that you guys are doing all the time in FPS. So it's a really valuable life skill that you've done. And you said you're studying business there.
Yes.
What are you looking at, like maybe thinking about what you want to do with that?
I'm looking in the future possibly management consulting, maybe finance consulting, but I think, hey, I can critically analyze what I can do with FPS. And also I think the collaborative skills that we gain from FPS is really invaluable, talking to these girls and different teams just throughout the years.
All right. Well, we'll say hook 'em to you then, since we already did Woo Pig Suey.
Thank you.
Shirley, what about you?
I'm also going to UT in the fall, and I'm studying business and double majoring with liberal arts. I think like FPS really helped me to like work with other people, because like the four of us need to collaborate, and also the teams I've had in like previous years. And I know that's like a huge part in business. You got to work with different people and like adapt to their way of thinking, and also like contribute your critical thinking to that, and how to like all work together as a team and bring your like best talent or like the best thing that you're good at. So I think FPS really helped me to like collaborate with others and also think critically.
Yeah, not only bring your best, but appreciate what other people bring to the table too, because you don't have to do everything. With the four of you, right? You can't do all 6 steps by yourself. So you bring your best, but then you rely on the others to bring their best as well. So good, hook 'em for you too. Adeline, this is going to be a hard one for me. Go ahead, tell people where you're going to go.
I'm going to Texas A&M University to study engineering, and FPS has really taught me that, for me, I find it kind of easy to come up with lots of solutions, but it's more hard for me to like focus on what exactly I want to accomplish.
Okay.
And with the step 2 in FPS, that's where we create the charge. We've already found all the problems, but now we need to dial in what we want to focus on fixing. And I think sometimes I get distracted by just trying to fix everything. But FPS is really teaching me that I can just focus on one thing and then make that a lot better.
Well, that's a great skill. I mean, that really is. You don't have to fix everything, figure out one thing, put a plan together and do it. So that's really important. So gig 'em to you.
Gig 'em.
Since this is a parent podcast, anything that you'd want to tell parents, right? So think about the parents who have students in maybe some of the lower grades and they don't know about FPS and they're like, oh, this sounds really neat. I would love for my son or daughter to do this when they get older. But of course, think about those kids, especially middle school, high school. It's like, oh, I don't want to do FPS, right? What would you tell a parent to tell their students about why this was valuable and what they should do?
Okay. I think maybe a good way, not necessarily why it's valuable, but I think the state bowl is really fun every year, and almost every team makes state, and if you don't, you can still go as an alternate.
Okay.
And I think that's a great way to like meet people and like solidify your friendship. So I think that's a good a good point for parents to bring up if they're trying to like talk to their kids and persuade them.
You guys actually have a good time doing this.
Yes,
it's fun.
It's really fun.
It's fun. And it's tedious sometimes, but it's definitely worth it. I wouldn't change a thing.
A lot of life is tedious. If you can actually have some fun in the midst of it, that's important too. I love that.
Another thing is like there's different competitions. I know there's like scenario performance, scenario writing, and like artistic expression. So like if your student is good at art, like drawing, painting, they can do like the other competitions. And then scenario performance, I did it last year. I think it really helps with like creative thinking, but also public speaking, because you need to like tell the story in front of like a lot of judges and other people. So it really helps with like public speaking and like gaining confidence.
Yeah,
so I think
public speaking is still a number one fear for most people. But you guys, would you say that this has helped you in developing the ability to just talk in front of groups of people?
I think so, because at state every year we do have to do a skit performance of the Step 6 we've created.
Yeah.
And it really has helped to not take ourselves so seriously, because we have to go up there and do something kind of ridiculous, but nobody really cares because it helps us all get used to it.
Yeah. I love that. Very good. Lily, anything you'd tell parents?
Oh, yes. So one thing is that it's helped me really develop personally. And I think one thing that's like most people associate with FPS is like, oh, your kid has to be smart to be an FPS. And I kind of argue against that. I think if you can think in a different way and you're creative, then you should try it, because like it's really encouraged me as someone who has like multiple learning disabilities. I'm on the spectrum and everything. People don't really see that. But I was really discouraged at first. Like, I didn't do it in middle school. I was really discouraged. I didn't want to because I'm like, I'm not smart enough to do it. And then I realized, like, no, that's just what people think. And actually, it's like a good way to appreciate the way that I normally think, which is not normal. So I was able to really develop and become confident in the way that I am and the way that God has, like, built me. So I really encourage people who may not think they're, like, equipped to do it, which is really not true. Like, anyone can do it, I think. It just takes time because, like, as we all, like, through high school, we went through trial and error with different teams. And so this year, we all clicked. So it really built, like, friendship. It built, like, strong communication skills. And it really, like, helped us to see how we truly do.
Yeah, I like that because from an educational standpoint, I mean, most of the classes that you have, right, it's information that you have to get. You put the information back and you get a particular grade. And so kind of thinking outside the box and coming up with alternative solutions, right, isn't really helpful, right? Because there's a right answer on a test, and you have to put the right answer down to see if you've mastered the information. But FPS is kind of like, wait a second, there's not a right answer, right? You have to come up with, you know, your own solutions to the problems, and it really is a little bit more of a kind of what the world's going to be like, right? Is like it's going to throw problems at you, and you got to figure out what you got to come up with. And there's not really necessarily a right or a wrong answer. There's just what do you come up with, and how do you figure it out? So I think FPS is a really valuable learning experience for what you guys are going to go do kind of in the real world. So super excited about it. Thrilled for you guys to have won. Out of how many teams were at state?
59.
59, and you guys were the best team. So how are we going to do in internationals? Like if there's a, you know, a bet on anything, like can we go put some money down on you guys winning this whole thing? I'm just kidding.
We're bringing it home.
Yeah, sure. We'll do our best.
Yeah, we'll definitely do our best.
I'll be honest, we were not expecting to win state. And we did our best, but we weren't expecting, like,
I was expecting top 10.
Really?
Yeah. But not top 5
I probably wasn't expecting anything because I've never actually won anything at an FPS before. So when I got my senior award, I was like, this is the one for, like, being a senior in FPS. But I think as long as we do our best, and we're doing practices too, the topic for internationals is air quality, which is pretty difficult because there's a lot of different ways in which they can do that. But like pollution.
There's a lot of like directions they can go.
Okay, so you guys actually get kind of an advance of like what maybe the general topic is going to be, but when you get there, you get a specific scenario.
We don't know, so we have to practice and generate possible like problems and solutions in each field of air quality before. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm excited for y'all in June, right, to be somewhere in Indiana and be part of this international competition, and we'll let our parents know how you guys do so we get that information out. But I'm also excited for you guys in the next chapter, right, of your lives and the different places you're going. I feel like you guys are equipped, right, to be successful, right, and thrive on whatever campus you're on, and I'm really excited to see where God takes you. So thanks for taking a little bit of time and telling our parents about FPS.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for investing the time to listen to this episode of The Journey. Please take a minute to share with friends and family who will also benefit from this valuable resource. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast app. It is truly our blessing and honor to walk with you on The Journey.